So it's that time again when we start thinking about pumpkins and scary stuff. It's Halloween 2025, and this is a completely beginner-friendly tutorial, just very quick. If you happen to be lucky enough to have access to a BAMBU printer, you can basically do what look like knitted pumpkins. So I'm going to give you a quick tutorial in Nomad and then send it over to the printer and see what it looks like. So let's dive in. So if you're lucky enough to have a BAMBU printer, and I've been doing lots of videos about them, there's a setting on it that allows you to do what's called fuzzy skin. I'll give you an example. This isn't a sculpt by me. This is just one you can download. Just search pumpkin on any of the 3D model stores that you can find online. Super easy with a quick Google search. And if you look here, it's got like a really fine texture, like a wobbly texture, and it looks like it's knitted. So what we're going to do is we're going to emulate this. What you can do if you want to take it a little bit further, and I'm probably not going to have the time to do it today, is do the multicolour ones like this. So we've got black inside and we've got orange and then green all in one print, but unfortunately there's not enough time today to get that done, but we can factor that in for the future. So let's dive right in and we'll have a look inside a Nomad what we might want to do. So we've got ourselves the basic sphere as you open it up, and before we even start anything, let's just make it look like a pumpkin from a colour point of view. So we'll go to a white Matcap. So up here you're on Matcap, not on lit, which is a different kind of thing altogether. Remember, I'm aiming this for people who are fairly new at this kind of thing. Bottom right here, you've got your material settings. So you tap that and then just navigate to an orangey kind of colour that gives you the pumpkin look, and just do paint all here. So you've now got just an orange sphere, and that's enough for what we want to do here. So basically now we want a pumpkin kind of shape straight out of the box. So if I hit the front button there, let's just hide this symmetry tab for a moment. And then, so that's basically taking it from the front and it's completely flat now. There's no perspective on it, or it's called orthographic. And I'm going to just trim off the top and the bottom. So in your toolbar, look for trim and then rectangle and just snip it off. I did it wrong then. Just snip it off at the top and snip it off at the bottom. So we've got something that looks a little bit like a pumpkin already. Now I want to flatten that down a little bit, so I'll just use the gizmo and the green button and I'll flatten it down. So if you start moving now, you're on track now for a pumpkin kind of shape straight out of the box. If you look at the wireframe, tap wireframe on, it's really high density and it's a real mess where you've trimmed it. So we can just voxel remesh that. So up to the top, go to voxel, and then in voxel, fairly lowish number, something like 50 or 60, and just do a remesh, and you get that sort of effect. So that's given us a nice, not too high res of a model to start sculpting on. So we can hide the wireframe for now. Now what we need to do is sculpt on it, but in a radial way. So if I sculpt now, you can see it's just going to sculpt with symmetry across X and Y, which is quite normal. That's how it generally is when it starts off. But we want it more than that. We want it all the way around. So come up to the top, go to symmetry, and under the radial setting, the second panel here, one, you can turn the symmetry off on X off. You don't need that. And down under radial, just hit it, and then type whatever number you want for your radial sculpting. I'm going to use 10 just as a starting point. Hit return. And now when you sculpt, you basically have got that. So you've now got the ability to sculpt and smooth, and smooth. And even if you go up here and you go to move, you can move around symmetrically. And that's all we need to do most of this tutorial. So first of all, let's make it look a bit like a pumpkin using... let's use something like the crease tool down here, and we'll just go in and we'll just define where the top would be. And you see how it's looking a bit blocky there? Let's give it a bit more resolution. So come up to the top and we'll go back to where we were, where we did the voxel, but the first one, multi-res, and we'll just use subdivide, and that'll subdivide it once for us. So it'll be 4 times as big in terms of polygons. If you want to, it's totally up to you, go again. And now you're really, you've got quite a high resolution mesh to play with. Too high for what we want here, but so I'm just going to define where the kind of rib, if you think of it like an orange, it's got segments like this. So if you look underneath there, it's going to be flat at this bottom anyway, so it doesn't really matter how far you go underneath. So it doesn't matter if it's rough looking at this stage, because one, you can smooth it down. You can make your brush bigger and smooth it. It'll give it a more overall effect of that smoothing. But we haven't started sculpting yet, so don't worry too much about that. So then go back to clay with a large brush, low intensity. And we're going to start building out this individual bits along here. And you want it to look like a pumpkin, so you want some irregularities in the skin. So you will be smoothing it down like this, but you want that bumpy effect, so don't worry about it being, you know, irregular and a bit lined. And also, because we want it to look knitted in the end, then we're gonna put extra lines in there when we finish this bit. So keep smoothing it down, leave some imperfections in there. Some of those lines like that. See how it's coming out and around, and it's building up nicely. So try and make sure it's even all the way around. So keep zooming out and rotating around so that you can see it from all different angles. Now if it goes off in any way, or it doesn't start looking like the pumpkin shape, they're quite tall actually, so go back to move, and then start thinking about from the side here. Look at it from the side, try and square it off a bit like that. So they're not like an orange in terms of they're not circular, but they do have this kind of this height along the side here. I don't know what you call it on a pumpkin, and that's pretty much what I want. Now in a bit we might want to go down a little bit with that. If you want to get more advanced with this, you can do. There's loads more you can do with this, but I wanted to keep this one just for fairly new users or people even who are new to a BAMBU printer and they want to have a go at something like this with Nomad Sculpt. So I know a lot of people who follow my tutorials have been doing this for quite some time, so it wouldn't be the kind of level of tutorial that you would want, but it's always fun to do something like this on Halloween anyway. So if you have been doing this for a long while, then share some tips down in the comments for the newer users for me. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to put some veining down, basically about maybe 4 or 5 down each segment, so that the fuzzy skin or the knitted look will go in and out of these grooves a little bit. So down each one, I'm going to go 1 here, bring that all the way underneath to the bottom, and then I'm going to split it 2 more times. So I'm going to do 1 here, like that. Oh, I've gone off track a bit there. Down here, and down here. Another one at this side. I've got 2 more to do. Just giving the surface a bit more of an irregular feel to it underneath with all of them. And then another one here underneath, and another one here, like so. And when you see that in the final printed output, it will just show up quite nice. I'll put a few extra little lines in just to give it a bit more patterning and a bit deeper in there, like so. And that'll probably be enough, I would have thought. So we can put a little bit more in the center, a few more lines here. And I'll be honest with you, I'm happy with that. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. I don't want to, because it's for a new user, I'd be happy to see you get on and print that. If you want to go a bit crazy with it, there's a couple of things you could do. You could hollow it out. You could draw a face on it and work on that face. So we'll just do a couple of those ideas now. So before I do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate it. So I'm just going to go up here and go clone. So I've now got 2. Turn the eye off the other one. And on this one, I'm just going to scale it down a little bit, like so. And I'm going to use this as a cutting tool in a minute. So you'll see what I mean when I get to that point. But if I move it down like that, and I just bring that center up like that. Now that's going to be used as the cutting tool when I'm ready for it. So we'll just leave that there like that. And then what we can do is, in fact, just to make it really clear, I'll change that to a red color so we know that that's the cutting tool. Bring the other one back on. You can see now there's one like that and that. So we're going to use that in a minute. But before we do that, we're going to, on this outer one, on the orange one, we're going to draw a face. So I'm going to just use masking for that. And I'm quickly going to, now I need to turn symmetry off. So go back to your symmetrical number and turn that back to 1. If you don't do that, you're going to be drawing all around the model. So now we want to use, we'll just use masking, and we'll just draw, oops, made a mistake, just draw a face like this. So you need full intensity. And if you see it being jaggy like that, it might be that you want more resolution at this point. So then subdivide it one more time. And now just draw yourself a face. I keep using my my palm keeps masking it all. So just draw yourself a basic pumpkin face in here if this is what you want to do. Again, as a new user, I don't want you to do this. I'm just going to show you how to do it. We're gonna print one without doing this, but it's good to show you how it's actually possible. So this isn't painting now, just remember this is masking, or if you do the invert with this button here, this is unmasking, which means you can get sharper edges sometimes. You can sharpen it up here, and you can blur it as well from up here as well. So let's just draw a quick mouth. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, just to line it up, and then we'll go in and fill that in a little bit more. So we'll go down with this one, up with this one, down with this one. I'm doing it very fast. I'd expect you to do this a lot better than me if you were wanting to do it. Like so. And there you go, we've got enough to be going on with. Now the easiest thing to do, there's lots of things you could do, but one very quick way of doing this next bit, you've got a pumpkin face there if needed. So with our face mask, hit Gizmo, and the masked area needs to be inverted at this point, so hold mask and tap on the outside. Now with Gizmo, you can just move that in, and that'll go, push it all the way in until it's inside that inner red. And then mask, strike up, and it clears it. Now what we want to do is basically hollow it out using that cutting tool. So we'll come up here, and we'll basically, this takes a couple of minutes just to get used to. So turn everything off, and then we want to turn the top one back on with its eye on, and turn the other one on but leave its eye off, so that basically it looks like it's invisible. And now basically you do Boolean, and then go put the resolution fairly high, something like 300 or 400, and ask it to Boolean it, and it's going to strip away the middle bit from this bit. Now the red has been quite useful now, look, because it's shown us where has been cut, and that's given you a really nice hollowed out pumpkin effect, something like that. Now you can go in and just move that around a little bit now, so you can now play with the features a bit. Turn off that symmetry again, remember. For some reason it's still back on. Make sure it's just one, and now just move, like pose those eyes a little bit, or make the mouth a bit tighter or a bit more evil, whatever you want to do. So again, as a beginner, you could do that, or you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can just use the solid pumpkin, but for now, why not? We've gone this far, so we'll use ours. If you want to just take the pumpkin before you did the cutting, then by all means do that. So let's just go back to an orangey colour. Again, this bit doesn't actually matter, and that's completely orange now. You can smooth that down a bit if you feel that there's bits of it that are looking a bit jaggedy. It's totally up to you. But something that's quite fun, you could actually turn this to, you could take, this is, again, just a bit of fun, is go to lit. So you've got a lit scene now rather than a matcap, and you could add a light like so. Make that instead of it being a directional light, you can make it a point light like that, and you could actually pop it inside, and that just shows you what this is going to look like if you did happen to light it inside. Basically, it's like putting a candle inside your pumpkin. Again, not something that you need to do for this tutorial. So first of all, I want to reduce the polygon count on this this pumpkin. So let's just delete those lights that I put in. don't need those. And then on the pumpkin, it's called quad sphere because it's you know, it's named as it was. What we'll basically do is come up here and go miscellaneous and go decimate about 10% of its original size. And that's just going to reduce the polygon count, so it makes it a little bit better for 3D printing. And then we're going to come in here and we're going to come to export. And we want OBJ, all or visible, and then just export. And I'm going to send this over to my Mac now, my MacBook Pro, and then we're going to jump into BAMBU Studio. Okay, so we're in BAMBU Studio or BAMBU by BAMBU Labs. So we're going to print the pumpkin. I've actually got my AMS, so it's the automated filament feeder is all loaded, and I've got all these different colors in there. So I'm going to just use this orange one when we're ready for it. So we'll go File, and we'll import that model that we just sent across. So I think it was that one. It says it's too small because we didn't scale it, so allow it to scale for you. Go up here to the rotation tool, and you probably want it going 90 degrees minus on Y, something like that. And just see if I've got it upside down or the right way. No, I did. I got it upside down, so undo that, and we'll just do 90 degrees the other way, and that should be the right way around. So you've now got a pumpkin hollowed out on the bed like that. Now it's orange because it came in with the color from the from Nomad Sculpt. But what you might want to do is go up and just double check that you're on the right filament. You want to make sure, absolutely sure, that you're going to use your own the correct color. The last thing you want to do is start printing it and find out that it's done in you know, something like black or something like that. So this one is definitely the right one. It's definitely loaded up the right way. Now, this is the important bit. You come down here. It's all set up as normal. So you want to, first of all, enable supports. And I use tree support, so that's that done. And if you go to, you're on global here, and you go to other, come down to the bottom of other, and you get this here, which is called fuzzy skin, and I've set it to contour, and I've made it 0.8, so it makes it a bit more fuzzy than it is by default. And that's it. That's all you have to do. So if we go slice the plate, and it will basically run through it, and it'll decide how many supports it wants. It'll need more because of this face at the front. You can, you know, it's basically adding all of these supports where the face is going to be. If you feel like that's not going to work for you, if you feel that there's going to be a problem with that, what might be a good thing to do is to lie it in a different angle. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we go back to prepare, and we well, first of all, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, and you could do it by doing it on an angle like, for example, something like that, or something like that. And that would mean that you've got the face coming up. So if I sliced it now, you'll see what I mean. It's going to slice it a very, very different way now. So the face is kind of just floating free like that, and it's the supports are coming up underneath it, which will mean when we crack them off, it'll be different. But now your fuzzy skin is going to be at a different angle, which I don't actually want that. So what we'll do is we'll go back from that, so back to prepare, and we'll bring him flat back on the surface. And what I will actually do is I'm going to increase his size, like something like that. So we've got him definitely a bit bigger, and we'll see the eyes a little bit better from this way. So now what we can do is reslice it again, same settings, and you'll notice that the fuzziness is, or you'll see when it's done, you'll notice that the face is better defined inside there. You can still see all of the fuzziness, which is great, and you can see all of the supports, which will be easy to crack off, but the face will be a little bit better defined, something like that. Now, that's going to be a 3-hour print at that size, so obviously that's going to take some time to get through the printer. but it would be, you know, you could make it a lot smaller, but bear in mind the fuzziness, the printed knitted effect isn't going to change its size. It doesn't get bigger stitches or bigger, you know, bigger fuzziness, and giving the effect of the knitted. So bear that in mind. Okay, so I'm just going to send that over. I'm just going to say print plate. I'm going to send it, and that will basically use the right filament. So you can see there it's using my orange filament, and it's sending over via cloud over to my printer. Okay, and there's our finished print. So as you can see, the supports are there. I'll just crack it off the base, and then pull all of those supports away, and you'll be able to see what you've got. So you've got your pumpkin head with a face pushed into it, or not if you've done it the other way and you've just done it with the full solid pumpkin. And you know you can put tiny little lights in that if you've got them, little candles if you've got them, and it looks cool. It's a fun thing to do for Halloween, and it's a super easy one to teach your kids as well if you fancy getting them into using Nomad Sculpt. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you do enjoy this kind of content, then please give us a thumbs up. It does help us to get in front of other people that like this kind of stuff. And obviously, if you're going to give us a like, why not subscribe to the channel and follow along with our weekly fun and games.